So I'll move on to introducing our final plenary speaker for the day in our Fighting Feral Pathogens theme, and that will be Mr. Adrian Bauwens, who is probably here somewhere, so I'll let him start making his way forward as I go through his bio here. Adrian is a proud Waka Waka man connected through the Darlow family line to the Bunya Mountains and Darling Downs. Adrian has years of experience working and walking on country for both BPAC and at a personal level. One of Adrian's key objectives is to understand Phytophthora and its impact on country, and he has been working with Louise Shuey and others on soil sampling processes and monitoring potential infections in the Bunya forest for the last 2.5 years. His presentation is Holistic Health of Bunya Mountains Rainforests, Phytophthora multivora and the Dynamics of Cultural Connections to Place. We would like to welcome him as he moves through all the tables. It's not a straightforward way to get here, unless you come right down the side. Well done. Yeah, I didn't do that earlier. Everybody please join me in welcoming Adrian.
Galang Gabadara Wabba, everyone. Good day, everyone. My name is Adrian Bauwens. I'll be talking about dieback on the Bunya Mountains and our cultural perspective and lens that we have when working in this space. But before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge country, which is our greatest elder. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders of past and present, for without their knowledge, I wouldn't be up here right now talking to you all today. So just a bit of context about the Bunya Mountains. Some of you are heading up there on Thursday, so maybe this is good to know before you head up. The Bunya Mountains is a significant area culturally for many people all across southeast Queensland. For thousands of years, people from all over would gather on these lands for a great variety of reasons, as I discussed in the welcome. Here I've imaged a couple bunya trees and the bunya nuts. Many families came up and they were designated a bunya tree. Now, the bunya nuts were a significant food source for many people. The cones probably get about this big, so if they drop on your head, you're dead. But they weren't just a food source for us. They provide a great food source for animals. Lately, the sulfur-crested cockatoos have moved in and are taking advantage of that. And so are the pigs too. So, when we talk about cultural connections to a landscape, Aboriginal people go quite deep. We have kinship systems, skin names, and many other cultural connections to these lands. Now, I don't know if you know, but we have quite a great understanding of sustainability and cultural practice with these animals. I myself have a totem, which is the bearded dragon, and we wear that kind of culture on our sleeves. Like, I've got a cool tattoo here, you just can't see it. Anyway, when we come up to these mountains, people from all over would participate in ceremony. When you do ceremony and dance, you represent your country. Whether you dance and take the form of these animals, or your spirits, and really just show off your connection to these lands. Often trade happened up a lot here, and we brought all sorts of things for our country. The Bunya Mountains is also a significant landscape ecologically. There's a great variety of grasslands up there with the endemic species of Bunya bluegrass, and these grasslands were maintained traditionally by fire. Now, in Indigenous cultures, we learn to live with the land. You become part of it, but you also take care of it. An obligation of country, as some would say. Or some of the uncles would say that that bush there, that's my IGA. For thousands of years, we took care of these lands. And now we face the threat of dieback on our country. What I want to talk about is how dieback is affecting us culturally and how it's affecting our ecosystems. So with these connections to the land being quite literally part of our identity as people, when you remove these animals, these plants, everything that's on country, you're taking a bit of part of us as people as well. Our identity is associated with country. So when dieback comes and takes that away, we lose ourselves too. I want you to think about why you do this sort of work and why we come to appreciate these sort of lands. It's in my blood, but at the end of the day, I choose to love and respect my country. And I'm sure all of us here do as well. Now, we have a great variety of vectors on our land, pigs being a massive one. Now, we don't have the full capacity to start shooting pigs and manage that on a great scale, but I want to talk about collaboration and how working with partners has been like a great process for helping with that issue. So currently we work with parks and council. They have capacity to work with these pigs and vectors. And while we don't have capacity to do that, by staying aware and being able to know what's going on, we can kind of make informed decisions on our end and how we can help them push through that kind of work. But a major vector I want to discuss today is a lack of awareness on what's going on. How many people here are familiar with dieback? Ah, that's great. Well, the average person walking through the bush probably doesn't know anything about it. And that's a major vector in itself, because biosecurity and hygiene is a great deal of work. And if we can't help push that agenda or help educate these people in that space, well, more damage will be done. I also want to talk about lack of awareness in the sense that not everyone is invited to the table. A lot of people don't have access to the information that we do and are not aware of the work that goes into this sort of space. So a great quote that I like to reference is, when you go to learn to ride a bike, you don't read about it, you just go do it. The same thing here applies in this industry. You get out on country and you go learn in the space. For me personally, being on country has helped me become aware of what's going on with dieback. I've been able to look it up online. I've seen pictures of dead trees and what dieback is and what's going on. But that wasn't really specific to what was happening on my country. And so I'd like to go into a little bit of a story of how I became familiar with it. So a couple of years ago, probably 2022, became affiliated with a woman named Louise Shuey. She knows much more than I do in this space, and she took us for a walk. So at this current point in time, there was mountain bike trails being developed across the tracks in the Bunya Mountains, and a lot of these tracks were going through dieback areas. Me being on the ground, it was important for me to get to know dieback and really become familiar with the issue, especially on the Bunya Mountains, on country. So we met up with Louise, and as a group we walked through down to Munro's camp. And if you've been to Bunyas before, you'd know how rough the terrain is and all the sort of vines and thicket you got to climb through to really get deep in the bush. But when this was happening, there was a great deal of anxiety just building up inside of me. And I was just worried about what I was going to see. So during this walk, we were talking, birds chirping, country just doing what it's doing, and we just kept approaching. I had no idea what I was in for, but I was eager to know. But when we got there, the environment was silent. Country was quiet. There was an eerie wind that blew past as I got to see what dieback was doing on country. And when I looked up, there was a skeleton of a once mighty tree, the Bunya tree. Now, this affected me to a really deep and personal level. I would go home thinking about it and feeling like, maybe I wasn't doing enough, or perhaps there's much more we could do about this issue. And so I personally took it upon myself to really become a part of this project and really get to know what's going on in the Bunya Mountains. So with that said, I became aware, and I suppose I'm taking it upon myself to make others aware on a smaller scale about the dieback and Bunya Mountains. We have a Phytophthora multivora, that's our specific dieback up there, and it affects a few host species, but more knowledge needs to be shared and known about that. So what's going on now is we're working with partners, people from DAF and Louis Shui. They were able to invite us into their lab and see the process of what's going on in the background. So we're able to see the soil sampling process, how it's baited, and pretty much how you confirm a dieback soil sample. We've also become aware of basic hygiene protocols and how to look after yourself on country, not spread the dieback yourself. Here I just have a picture of a Bunya that has been affected by the dieback and an image of myself cleaning the dieback tyres, or not dieback tyres, but tyres on my bike. So when working with partners, we were able to identify that the Brisbane laboratory is about 3.5 hours from the Bunya Mountains, and understanding that there's a need for more soil samples, we were able to grab soil samples on the ground and provide that for people in the lab. So this relationship has allowed for quicker soil sampling, allowing for us as people on the ground to get an idea of where the dieback is on like our mapping systems, like a Venza. And so there's a relationship there that we have, and it's beneficial for both parties. So now when we go out on country, we look from a cultural lens, like what's happening on the ground? How does it feel? What does it look like? And so now we can work together to achieve something greater. I was fortunate enough to visit New Zealand and Perth and see what they're doing in their dieback areas. Really amazed to see what WA specifically are doing, the hygiene going on over there, the full-time dieback interpreters that they have, just the sheer amount of knowledge that's there. I'm wanting to bring that over here. And so what I'm getting at is we need help. We need to work with people that do have an understanding and connect them up with people that are on the ground. Most First Nation ranger groups are always on the ground, so that would be my first group of people to look at. If you need someone to look on the ground, they're always there. And so that leads me into our next point of where we're going with future works. So after thousands of hours of walking on country, my legs have grown tired. And now we're working with drones and collaborators who specialize in drones to build a framework around mapping out dieback and how we, as people on the ground, can report back. So our future work's based around data, educating people in this space, and collaborating with people that have the scientific knowledge and backgrounds to do the work that we don't have capacity for. So my main points being, when we lose country, we lose culture and we lose people. When we work together with collaborators, we can achieve much more than what a small group of people are doing in their own little corner. All in all, what we're doing here is great. I appreciate everyone's work and the information and knowledge that you all hold. And I'd like to thank you all for having me up here today. Have a good long day.
Thanks, Adrian, for that. It was a great talk. One of the things that we did in WA a long time ago was develop the use of phosphite. And you probably heard about that when you're over there as a spraying tool, but also for injecting individual trees they've done. Have you thought of doing that or starting to look at doing that in your area?
Yeah, so it's definitely being looked at being trialled. Paul would probably know more about where.
Trials
Yeah.
getting in the bunyas with certain trees. There is a challenge with the thickness of the bark of the bunya.
There would be.
Some of the old ones. So it's probably one of the tools in the tool belt for management techniques, but definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking for really iconic trees, which you may have up there, then that would be one way to. And I have seen it does work very, very well on bankers and so on, but perhaps not quite as big as the sort of trees that you have, though.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's been tried.
Okay. And yes, we'll move along the table there.
Thanks, Adrian. This is a bit of a West Australian. Pass the microphone. I was just curious about the cultural traditions relating to planting bunya. Would you like to talk about that?
That I'm not too well versed in. As far as I know, yeah, I don't know anything about traditional planting with the bunyas. I just know it was very much shared around with people attending the Bunya Festival. Yeah, so sorry about that.
It was done, was it? Or you don't know?
I wouldn't know.
Trade routes and projects Ollie's been involved in might highlight some of the stuff. There's been a bit of a look at both the anthropology and genetic, diversity of different bunya populations. I haven't seen results, but I know there's been research projects looking into the crossover of people movement and those populations of bunyas, but it's definitely beyond speculation that was a really important trade thing in itself. So, but yeah, I don't know for sure what the results of that is.
There's a PhD thesis by Patrick that's online about where he summarises all that.
Yeah.
What he was able to gather from
Yeah.
it's
Do you recall?
yes, but not so that I can share it in 2 minutes. Yeah, have a look at it.
Okay, thanks for that.
Alright.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Thank you, Adrian, one more time.